Welcome to Mission Nonprofit. I'm Deborah Vinsel. Each month, we showcase nonprofit organizations doing great work in our community. This month, we're proud to welcome local organization Sustainable South Sound. Their mission is to foster sustainability in our community by encouraging citizens to buy, eat, and shop locally. Today, we welcome to the studio Rachel Friedman and Chris Hawkins, representatives of Sustainable South Sound. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I know schedules can be busy. So did we set it up correctly? Buy, shop, eat locally? There's probably more to it than that.
There is more to it, but that's a great beginning.
So I think when people see the name of Sustainable South Sound, they could think of a lot of things. I know you've been around for more than 20 years, 23, 24 years. And I remember when Sustainable South Sound was being organized 23 years ago. So from your perspective as an organization, what do you mean by sustainability in our community?
I'll let you take that first.
All right. Well, going back to when we were Sustainable Community Roundtable,
Right.
That was the starting name of the organization, and it was really an effort to bring up the level of awareness of people in the community about the interplay of the economy with the environment and with social equity in the community. So those are the three legs of the stool of sustainability that holds it together. And so that's what we emphasize in terms of trying to help people understand sustainability, is that it's a prosperous economy that at the same time maintains the natural systems that we live in and with, and also treats people equitably and makes sure that our community flourishes together. And so it's really those three elements that make up sustainability. And then there's a whole lot more that goes with that. So sustainability is yes, about buying local, because that keeps more money in our local economy. That money stays here instead of going off to a large organization's head office outside of our community. It's a principle of import substitution that goes back a long time in understanding how local economies can grow and prosper. And so that's a part of it, but then it's also about how we live. So we actually emphasize the whole picture of how we live in community, not just our consumption and buying habits, but also things we do in our daily lives that contribute to building that strong economy, a natural environment that's well protected and flourishing, as well as treating each other well.
Mm-hmm. So how do we as a community manifest that? What are some specific things that happen in our community that support a sustainable community, sustainable life, that people may or may not know they can do or participate in, or what's an easy way to be sustainable, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
There are many ways, many ways. Two things that we're involved very deeply with are purchasing locally. So like you said in the opening, buying local. We have been involved not from the start of the organization, but for about 15 years with what's called the Buy Local program, where we invite locally owned and managed small businesses to become members. And in doing so, they have opportunities to advertise or put coupons into a coupon book, which we then sell to the community. It introduces people to services, businesses, organizations, nonprofits that they may not have known about. The book is filled with both kind of educational information as well as the coupons, which could introduce them to new places, as I mentioned, and then thus putting their dollars, keeping their dollars locally.
And that's a funding resource for your organization. The proceeds from that then help to sustain you.
Well, the membership and the purchase of the coupons, yes, but the using of the coupons sustains those member businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of sustainability in our community and our environment, I think people probably have more of a sense of what that's all about. But how is Sustainable South Sound manifesting that kind of leg of the stool that you said?
Yeah, so back when we got started, we published reports to the community about key indicators and key measures of a sustainable community. And so it covered a wide array of things, in addition to looking at the economy and looking at how well we're doing in terms of waste and protecting the natural environment, in other words, open space that's protected in Thurston County. It was also dealing with other factors such as how well are children and families doing in our community, how well housed are people in our community, and then so those are sort of social factors in a sustainable community. But it really deals with that whole picture, a variety of factors in the environment, a variety of elements in the social fabric of the community, including things like an indicator around how much are people participating in community by measures such as what's the voting rate right now. So that's a really important indicator of how much people care about their communities. Are they participating in the annual election that happens in our community?
Some of the environmental specific indicators that we would look at were things like clean water, CO2 emission, are people using alternative transportation? This indicator report, which was produced annually, was as qualitative as we could make it, but that's hard to do on a scientific quantitative. But because we were looking at the same measures over years, and we're collaborating, it was a very strong collaboration with the City of Olympia,
Yes.
and they actually had staff dedicated to it, and it was really a very comprehensive environmental, economic, social kind of conglomeration of factors that were produced to the public. Now, what came of it? What came of it?
Well, we did that reporting updated annually through until about 2005, 2006. Was the duration of that indicator project, and I think the City of Olympia had its own city-specific indicator and State of the City report that went out on for about the same amount of time. Around the mid-2000s, about 10 years ago now, we took a different tack in a way. Up until that point, we had some demonstration projects that spun off into other things in the community, like the Sound Hours program was one that kind of got started, incubated a little bit within Sustainable South Sound.
And that was was that the bartering?
That's right.
Yeah, the bartering thing, yeah.
So a local
that.
Currency was one of the things that was a project of Joanne Lee, and she then took that and made it a project of her own to do in the community. And we also helped to support and give rise to a microenterprise lending project that Lisa Smith is leading still in the community, Enterprise for Equity.
15 years. And so that was definitely spawned from that whole effort that Sustainable South Sound began. Also, Fertile Ground, the guest house, the demonstration garden, also in a local nonprofit, also was spawned from the efforts of this indicator project.
So from your beginnings, from the beginnings of the Sustainable Community Roundtable, I was struggling to remember what it was called then, so there's been an arc of time, that has passed 20-some years. Was there something that was troubling or a concern or like a focus back then that 20-some years later you can look at and go, this was a success because we applied sustainable concepts and look where we are now? Is there something specific you can point to?
I would say that in a couple different areas, and this is by no means all Sustainable South Sound's efforts that had created it, but with the partnerships with local governments and seeing community attention and interest in it, I think there's been a great shift in terms of the participation in things like active transportation and transit in the community. And so the systems that are supporting that are really, I think, a lot stronger now than they were back when we started as an organization. That's one example. I think that despite the fact that we have a lot more people living here now, we're still seeing maintenance of pretty good water quality and air quality in our region, and a fairly good open space protection around Thurston County. One of the things that's changed about that in recent years is a growing concern about food security and how well is our community prepared to produce its own food and be able to sustain the population that we have more on what can be grown here in Thurston County.
Right.
So that led us to, in the mid-2000s, partner with an urban agriculture program project that was just getting started by T.J. Johnson around that 2006-2007 timeframe, with a strong focus then on trying to get some policies into the local governments and the cities around making it possible for people to grow more of their own food. And we had a lot of success with that, getting some of those urban agriculture policies established, thanks to TJ and a lot of participation from the community in that. But that really awakened or coincided with a lot of interest across the community in local food, in how do we maintain farmland in our community, and just a lot of projects that were allied with that effort that coalesced in a food summit that Sustainable South Sound helped organize back, and I believe the year was 2010 for that. And then and that gave rise to a lot of other offshoots since then, but really a continued interest in the community. So I think instead of being really focused on open space per se, there's been a shift in our organization towards what is the amount of productive farmland that is still available in the community, and how can we maintain that and protect that farmland around the county.
And we're a small but mighty board, and we're always looking at opportunities for collaboration. So, for example, there's a very active group. I just joined them about a year ago, called the Thurston Food System Network, and they've now expanded to include the Thurston Thrives work. What's very exciting is whether or not these organizations, these initiatives came about as a result of Sustainable South Sound, maybe not, but there's room for collaboration, and there's so much interest across sectors around this, food security, farmland sustainability, environmental protection in the face of all of that. It's not just let's go farm everywhere and destroy, all available lands. It's let's do it wisely. That there just are so many opportunities that keep growing for both education of the public and involvement of the public in everything from one of the programs we manage is a community garden program. So we had 3. We now have 2 because one of them was purchased by TJ, and he's now a private farmer right in the city of Olympia limits. But we give support to local people who can't perhaps farm in their own yards, don't have yards. Teach them how to, grow food to sustain them for their season, their year. We're actually on the verge of perhaps collaborating more closely with the City of Olympia, who, through their Parks, Arts, and Recreation program, has a community garden initiative. They've got 0.1% of a staff. They've got a number of gardens. We're working to see if we can link with them and help them improve their process. At the same time, Evergreen State College has great students coming through with programs about sustainable food or looking at local gardens in communities and how to expand and outreach to the public. So we're trying to do as much kind of collaborative work as we can in that area. Right. And we'll talk a little later about other things
Well,
as
I was
well.
going to ask, so environment and food security are huge issues, but you also mentioned, like you talked earlier, about how you have the book that helps to support local businesses. And I think a lot of people, if they thought about sustainable South Sound and things like food security and the environment, might not think of commerce as something that needs to be sustained and nurtured. So how are you collaborating, I mean, obviously with the book, with other organizations to help assure that there's a place for local business and that local business is secure and supported in our community?
Well, to start with, and Rachel, feel free to add on to this, but we did some education and promotion of why buy local as part of that project. And really it's about what are the impacts of when you don't purchase locally that if you did purchase locally would be avoided, such as the long supply lines and transportation energy use, et cetera, that goes with shipping products a long distance into Thurston County and into our region here. So that's certainly a major environmental impact. It also is a drain on the local economy if those dollars are going back out. So we wanted to emphasize some of those educational points in some of the work that we've done to promote buying locally in the community, so that people understand the impact of their dollar spent and where you put your money matters.
You can kind of do there's an exercise you go through in organizational planning is a so that chain. So you buy locally so that things are not shipped from out of state, so that CO2 emissions don't go up, so that our air quality is maintained, so that it's like it's like the ripples, So
In that vein, about a year ago, in fact, it was last summer, we put out our first edition. So the Buy Local program. So to step back for a second, Sustainable South Sound has become kind of an umbrella nonprofit under which we've got 3 programs, kind of unique, distinct, and yet they are, they're interrelated to some degree. So the local food system is one, the Buy Local program is one, and we'll talk about the last one if you'd like. Thurston County Progressive Network is another. Through our Buy Local program, a year ago, we decided that we wanted another mechanism to start to educate people about those so whats. And we created a quarterly newspaper that gets mailed. Now, a number of people said, "What? You're mailing paper? Is that truly
Which means
sustainable?
you're cutting down trees
Is
and
that
you're
sustainable?"
right.
And we
Right.
had a big conversation about that because we talked about whether, from strictly an education perspective, are people reading those email newsletters that they're getting blasted with all the time, versus if it comes in your mail and it's engaging and it's speaking to where you live, are you going to read it? And we've actually found great success. So we publish on a quarterly basis a 16-page newspaper called Living Local, and we feature local businesses. We feature local issues. We're going to have a number of articles about the gopher, the pocket gopher issue. That's very environmental. Right. We feature history, some of the history of our region. We give our members an opportunity to advertise or to put coupons in this, and it's just an additional mechanism to teach people that they can have choice, they can make choices. They don't have to automatically go to a big box if they need something. It's really to start a kind of a very direct process of, oh gee, I read that article that talks about localism. And what's localism? Well, in reality, we couldn't survive if we did everything here, but if we were aware enough to be able to make that decision, okay, I know I'm buying a banana. The banana has to come long haul. I like bananas. I want to eat bananas, but I know that I'm making that choice.
Right. but I can
Whereas-
buy my bread locally that's
Bingo.
made at a local bakery.
Bingo.
So you offset it.
Bingo.
right?
Well, you can start to be more of an educated public.
Great.
Yeah.
So how does one become a member of Sustainable South Sound? Do I have to be a business owner or a farmer or own a garden, or how's that process work?
You can join as an individual, a localist, we're calling them these days, or you can join as a business member. And so there are those two different categories of membership, and we actually have a membership that comes through the community gardens as well. So that's really the ways people can do it. And they can do that by visiting sustainablesouthsound.org, our website. They can do that by picking up a copy of the Living Local and finding the information, contact information there. There are several ways to get in touch with us.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Facebook. And what does being a member mean? I'm a member of Sustainable South Sound. What does that mean? Do I attend meetings? Do I?
It means that you're supporting the efforts to get this word out about sustainability even farther than we have to this point, and the projects that we have within Sustainable South Sound that are making it easier for people to find a way to grow their own food or get healthy food, easier for people to find a local business that is providing the good or service that they need. And in the case of TC ProNet, it's an opportunity to engage in the community dialogue about the future of our community. So it's really about encouraging that civic participation. So they'd be supporting those three things if they join as a localist. They would also get the benefit of having the Living Local mailed to them. And I don't think have we worked in the coupon book as well to the membership? I think that's
yes.
part of it,
I mean,
yeah.
if you become an individual member, you get that book for free as a thank you. So that's kind of current what you get, and that's good. My goal as president, and I'm hoping to see this over the next few years, is to be able to start to offer programs, meetings, learn about something, or come help influence something, or to the extent that people want to get involved. I have to tell you, that's hard.
It is.
To get people involved. We're super busy. Most involved people are already involved.
Yeah. And do you have paid staff, or is this an all-volunteer organization?
It's a combination. We have an all-volunteer board, but we also pay people to work on the Buy Local program in particular, because that is an area where we do have enough membership coming in that we can afford to pay for staff, and the services that we want to provide in Buy Local really need that level of staffing support. TC ProNet will be another program. It's relatively new to Sustainable South Sound, but when that puts on an event, we want to make sure that we support
Have professional support for
the
it.
people who are doing the work on it.
So we're running short on time. It's been a great conversation. So I know you say you collaborate with a lot of other organizations on things that kind of help spread that sustainable message. So are there events or activities or programs coming up that Buy Local has its, or not Buy Local, that Sustainable South Sound that is involved in that you'd like to let people know are upcoming?
Great, yeah.
Well, for the summer, we put our eggs into the basket of tabling at different events. So we will most likely be at Harbor Days. We will most likely be at Love Our Local, which is in August, up on the west side of Olympia.
We'll be at Music in the Park on August 10th.
Because actually we are a sponsor, so Sustainable South Sound is a sponsor of that. We're a quad sponsor for that concert. Over the years, I've talked with Northwest Eco Builders Guild. Steve Abercrombie and I had a conversation. We thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a backyard barbecue with their group and our group? So we don't have anything on the books yet, but I like parties. I like bringing people together.
You can get a lot done at parties.
I like bringing people together. So, my interest is to really start doing that more deliberately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our mission goes back to education, advocacy, action, and celebration to move the community towards sustainability. So that's what we're about.
I think that's a great way to kind of wrap this up. I want to thank you both for being here and
Thank
sharing
you.
so much about Sustainable South Sound. I learned a lot that I didn't know, and I'm sure our viewers did too. So thank you for joining us, and very good luck with all of your efforts in the future. So,
Thank
and
you.
you're
Thank
coming up
you.
on a 25th anniversary pretty soon, I think,
Yeah,
aren't you?
it is very
In a
soon.
couple of years, yeah. So we should
Yes,
kind
we-
of keep our ear to the ground for that.
Right.
So,
Hopefully we'll make a big splash.
thanks for joining us. We really appreciate
Thank
you being
you.
here.
Thank you.
Nonprofit organizations do so many great things in our community, whether it's protecting the environment, educating our children, supporting the arts, or providing critical services to our friends and family. Nonprofit groups strengthen our community. Many thanks to all the wonderful volunteers and the staff here at TCTV for their efforts to make this show possible. I'm Deborah Vinsel. Thanks for joining us for this month's episode of Mission Nonprofit. We'll see you again next month.